Now on that last photo, I click Done, which basically means save all the changes that I made to that photo. But when you come back here to the bridge, take a look. Here's the photo we just adjusted right here. It doesn't look really much different. It looks exactly the same as it did before we adjusted it. But if that's the case, it just needs to redraw basically a higher thumbnail. So control click on Mac or right click on PC and go to Generate High Quality Thumbnail. Give it a second and then there it is. There's the brighter version that we just created a moment ago. Hey, you know what? Let's real quickly just go ahead and, now, I was going to go ahead and apply this to some other images. So we could apply this to the ones that are like very similar lighting, these like right here. All right, by just going here first, going to develop settings, because we just basically developed this photo. Copy the settings. Let's click this photo, this photo, this photo. Let's see what else is similar lighting up here. That one. All these are pretty much similar lighting with the head tilty thing. That's the head tilty thing. And all right, this is a little bit different. So those I think all are pretty much the same as far as the lighting goes. So now let's go ahead and choose, well, where's the one with, okay, there's the one we copied from. Now we're going to go develop and hit paste. It's going to ask us which things to paste. Well, all we really worked on was, let's go ahead and, we did white balance, we did exposure, recovery, fill light, blacks, brightness. We didn't do the contrast because it's lame. We didn't do saturation because it's lame. We did the point curve, and that's pretty much it. Click OK, and it applies those settings incredibly slowly. Or, well, you see that little circle? That means the adjustments have been applied. That means the adjustments have been applied to this photo. Now, it could mean just the white balance was adjusted. So let's go over here and say Generate High Quality Thumbnails. And now it updates with the changes that we just made. All right, so those are looking just a lot better from where we started. Now, let's take it one step further. There's something, let's go ahead and let's process a few more real quick so you can see. Let's go up here, let's process him. He looks like he needs processing, doesn't he? Double click. All right, and let's apply the same changes to him. All right, the white balance is already set. We applied that earlier, so let's just bring up there we go, bring up a little more. That looks pretty good. All right, recovery, just pull it off just a hair. And do we need any fill light? Now, the fill light is only going to affect probably his shirt, right, and this side of his face, because this is very bright. It's not going to affect the bright areas. It only affects the dark areas. So there you go. You might bring up just a little bit. Look at the difference that made. Look at it bringing out the detail in the side of his face. But, I mean, I actually like the drama of a very dark shadow on the other side of his face. But I do like that it brings back a little more detail in his shirt. All right, brightness is okay. And how about some clarity? We can use quite a bit of clarity. He could use some clarity, don't you think? There we go. And vibrance, I don't know if we really need any of that. Nah, he's okay. All right. And how's our contrast? Set to medium contrast. Let's look at strong contrast for him. Ooh, I like that. I just do. I think it looks good. I think he looks better with the strong than the medium. It's more dramatic. Yes, it is darker back here, but I like that. I mean, I was going for that look. Only thing I would do to finish this off, perhaps, is to go up to the retouch tool. Let's zoom in a little bit here using those shortcuts I showed you earlier, and let's just get rid of that right here. Let's just pull out over that, pull out over that. This one looks like over here, like it might need to go, there we go, to a little bit better spot. And he's got one over here. Let's see how this works. It's kind of in the middle of some hairs and stuff. Not too bad, and that's not a good spot. I'm just looking over here. Ooh, that's a bad spot. All right. Well, there's also some hair over here. This might need to be done in Photoshop instead. So this is one I would do in Photoshop too, because you really need to. That's okay. That one, I think. Let's see if we can get away with it. Nope. It just stopped, that little wrinkle there in its tracks. So that's one I think I would let's undo that. Command Z on Mac or Control Z on PC. That's typical of one that you'd get rid of in Photoshop. And by the way, since I'm just going to mention it, would you like to see how to get rid of it in Photoshop? Let's hit Open Image. All right. So let's open it up. Here we are in Photoshop. And just to get rid of it, I would get the Clone Stamp tool. All right, let's get a brush, make it a little bit bigger. And what you need to do here is you need to continue this line straight over there. And there's a trick for that in Photoshop. You hold the Option key on Mac or the Alt key on PC. You click right on that line. Then you move your cursor over, right over where the spot is, and then you just hold the Option key, but you don't click. See, over here you Option click, or on PC Alt click to say, I want to copy that area, right? You want to copy maybe that Option click, PC Alt click. Then you move over here. You hold the same key, Option on Mac, Alt on PC, but you don't click. You just use that little cursor to line yourself up. See that horizontal line in the middle? You line it right up, one click, and it's on the money. It just brings that line over. Even though I said it was on the money, it wasn't perfect. There we go. Pow. All right, see how that continues the line over? If we just used the healing brush, what would happen was it would have just put a gap there, and that would look kind of funky. Okay, so just a little diversion there, but I thought it was worth doing. All right, let's go ahead, and we're not going to save this. We're going to go back to the bridge and make some more changes. So let's go ahead and double-click. He looked okay on that one. So let's go a little bit further. How about this one? This could use a little tweaking. Let's go over here. Let's bring up the... There we go. But a little light down here, too. I don't know if we need all of that. I might bring up the blacks a little bit. There we go. Because you really want the light on his face and on there. So I'm bringing up the blacks. It's kind of darkening the background, and it's darkening his shirt up a little bit. I like a little bit of detail there, but I don't want this so bright down here that your eye is drawn down there. And let's actually use recovery a little bit, too. Let's just see if it brings back some of those highlights. And the only thing that I would like to see different personally is I'd like to see maybe a little more detail right here in his hair. If I bring the fill light in, it'll probably do that, but it's also going to fill up other areas too. So that's something that I would fix actually in Photoshop. And now you're probably wondering, well, how would you fix it in Photoshop? Well, son of a gun, let's go ahead and do it. All right, let me add the clarity here that I would normally add. All right, let's go ahead and take it over to Photoshop. There's actually two things I would do to this image to finish it in Photoshop. One is, I want to get a little more detail, a little more brightness in his hair. And this is a really quick, easy fix. Go to the Layers palette, which I happen to have right here. And go ahead and duplicate the layer. Let me just drag it out here so you can see it a little better. I'm going to hide all this junk. All right, duplicate the layer. Then we're going to change the mode from normal to screen, which basically makes the photo much, much, much brighter, and his hair has tons of detail now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold the Option key on Mac or the Alt key on PC, and I'm going to click on the layer mask icon like there. So now the brighter version of him is hidden behind the layer mask thumbnail. So it's still there, it's just hidden. So if it's black, to reveal things, you have to be in white. So make sure your foreground color is set to white. Go get the brush tool, choose a nice, large, soft brush, which I'm changing brush sizes, by the way, by using the bracket keys on my keyboard. The left bracket key makes the brush smaller. The right bracket key makes the brush larger. Alrighty. And then we're just going to go through here and just brighten up some of these areas in his hair. Alright. And if you want to choose brush 2, you can choose it from the the brush picker, up here. Alright. So we're bringing back some detail. Now, this is more detail than I really want, but we're going to dial it in just right in just a minute. Okay? Because now what we'll do, now that it's nice and bright, you go back over here, and the opacity controls the amount of brightness after the fact. All right? So let's look before. Here's no brightness. Here's full brightness. We're going to choose something in between. We're going to lower this opacity until it looks good. Ooh, something just like that. I love it right in there. All right? That's problem number 1. Problem number 1 is fixed. So we can either flatten that or whatever. All right, now what I would do next is zoom down. He is, in my opinion, too bright up here in his shirt area. I don't mind a little bit of it up in here, but the whole thing's just a little bit too dark. There's a number of different ways to get rid of it. I'll show you one way to do it. I would go here. Let me go ahead and hide the other stuff so you don't see the bridge back behind us. I always find that kind of irritating, but you do get to see my LaCie disc, and that's kind of nice, kind of a bonus. Here, it's gone. Okay, here's what we do. Let's do this. Go to the pop-up menu here, and let's choose levels and bring up levels. All right, so it brings up the levels dialog box as an adjustment layer. Now, I want to darken this area down here, so I can grab the mid-tone slider and maybe drag it to the right. All right, so it darkens his shirt pretty well, but unfortunately it darkens everything. So we click OK. All right, the other thing about doing this is it sometimes also affects the color, right? So what I do is after I do that, I switch the blending mode from normal to luminosity. And what that does is basically it lets the darkness that you just added to the photo stay, but without really tweaking the colors very much. But the problem is we have darkened the entire photo. I just wanted to darken his shirt. So what I do is I go grab the gradient tool, make sure your gradient is set to the very first gradient, the third gradient, black to white. That's always black to white, the third one. And then we're going to click and drag our gradient right on our layer mask. And it did drag the wrong direction. We're going to drag from top to bottom. There we go. And you see what it just did? Check that out. As I drag from top to bottom, it leaves the light up here, but leaves the darkness down there. All right, so you can pretty much decide. Let me undo it again. Drag it here if you want a little bit more light there. There we go. Take a look at that. So now the light's right where you want it. Here's before and after. The effect is basically it darkened his shirt enough to where the light stays right on him. Because really that's where you want people to look. You don't want them looking down here at the bottom, of the image where his chest is. The focus is right here, especially in this sunglass type of an ad. So you want it right there. So look what that did. All right. So basically what we did is we faded from basically just the black areas are clear and then the white areas are solid. That's it. So it got solid dark down here. That's the thing that I would do. All right. Let me just take a couple more minutes and we're going to switch back over here to the Bridge of Rooney. And let's just fix up a couple more images. And by the way, if you make an adjustment and again you don't see it, you can go ask to generate the high quality thumbnail and you can see that. So let's just look at a couple more that we might fix and see if you see one that you like. This one looks pretty good. This one looks good. You know what he could use? A smile. He looks kind of grumpy there. All right, we'll fix that in a minute. All right, so we'll just go through here. And see, the lighting is actually much better here. I don't have the lighting fall down here, so I was controlling my light a little bit better here. Any recovery necessary? Not really. Blacks look okay. We can add some clarity. There's going to be a little retouching for some of the little blemishes and things there. We know that the white balance is already pretty much set. Really not that much to do here, just basically kind of balance out the tone. He looks actually a little red in this photo. To me, it looks a little bit red, so I might come back a little hair towards the blue just so it's not quite so yellow. Vibrance doesn't really need any vibrance. Everything else looks pretty good. How's the contrast over there? Set to medium. That looks, let's try strong. We were liking strong earlier. Oh yeah, that looks good. Very much more dramatic. All right. Now, I mentioned he was kind of grumpy. Now we have to fix that. I got to be careful what I mention in this class, right? Because then I have to go actually fix it. And how I would fix the grumpiness is basically go into the filter menu over here to liquefy. And when the liquefy dialog comes up, I would just move him up. I would just take the very first tool up here. I would go, maybe make it a little bigger. And just grab his cheek and just tuck it into a little smile. Come on, buddy. It's not so bad. There we go. See? It's not so bad being a model. Just tip it up. There you go. Good guy. There you go. He's happy. He's feeling good. Much better. Just a little tiny bit of a smile. Click OK. And you'll see how much happier he is. See, look, there's before and there's after. So he's like really having a bad day, but, I get paid for this? Great. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, there's one more thing we need to talk about. I was going to whip through a few of these, but there's one critical thing that we need to do, one kind of last important thing we need to do in Camera Raw that we really haven't talked about, and that is we haven't talked about sharpening yet. So, of course, sharpening is incredibly important. Well, that's a pretty good pose. Sharpening is incredibly important, so we're going to work on that. Do we need anything here? Do we need anything here? Next, but not before we go and add strong contrast. All right, he's a little too yellow. And again, it's just judgment call. And there we go. And click done. Now, done is, you can't see it, it's just off the recording area, but there's a button called done. There's also a button called open image. So if you hit done, it just saves the changes. If you hit open image, it'll actually open the image in Photoshop with the changes that you made. But no matter what you do, it never disrupts the original raw image. Since we shot in raw, we can always get back to our original file by going choosing Camera Raw defaults and set you right back where you were before.